Hey guys, today we want to talk about our next sort of big idea as we look at our lives, as we try and figure out what our vision might be, and just a few thoughts. It's about looking back. Frankly, I think this is something that's going to take courage. It's important to look back at what's happened in our life so that we can move forward. You really can't have a vision for your life and direction unless you take an honest look at what's happened in your life. So a great quote from an educator, I'm an educator, from this guy named John Dewey, and he said this. He said, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So what we want to do is we want to go through a process whereby we reflect on our experiences. Now let me say something really, really important. Experiences, if we look back at our lives, I imagine many of us can look at some things that really, really hurt. They're traumatic. And what we're going to be doing in this class, this series of conversations, is we're not going to. I want to say we're not going to be counselors. None of us that I know are counselors. If you have really significant, deep trauma, I would really encourage you to think about getting some more professional help. I have a dear, dear friend, abused as a child in some ways, and the only help that got them through things is real counseling. So if you've got those kinds of things, we're not going to really address those. It's going to be looking at some of the things. If those things are present, maybe you could take some less traumatic things and work through that here. But if there are some things that you really need to deal with, I can't tell you how important it would be for you to get the help that you need. Maybe some of you have been in the military, but I haven't. My dad was in the military. But one thing they often do is they do something called an after-action review. So there's a mission, the soldiers go in, it's a team of Navy SEALs or something like that, and then after that they sit down and they say, what happened? Why did it happen? What can we learn from it? How can we be better from it? And that really is the heart and soul of what we want to start looking at here in this week. What can we do? And this is very biblical. A few verses that I found here. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Right, so Jesus even says it's a good idea to kind of look back. Or how can you say to your brother, let me take that speck out of your own eye when there's a log in your own? So this is about reflecting on ourselves. Or examine yourselves, right, to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Or you realize this is about yourselves, that Jesus Christ is in you, unless indeed you fail to meet the test. So folks, this looking back is something that's super, super important. And if you get a chance to read the book by Michael Hyatt, he really talks about like 4 steps. And I thought about doing this in like one full segment. And as I looked at this, I thought this is such a big deal that we're going to break it into 2. We're going to add a week to the course, by the way, for this. But he's got 4 steps. And I think the steps are so important. And this is something where you need to sit and reflect in your journaling time to do this. The first one is to state what happened. So you need to get something in your head about something that you realize there needs to be some work in. So what happened? So maybe there's an incident. You had a goal. You had a goal that you wanted to be at a certain place in your career by now. Or you had a goal that relationships is going to turn out some way. I don't know. I would encourage you to look at lots of areas. Relationships. So pick one. I mean, we're not going to try and fix everything here, right? Spiritual. Physical. How did I get to this place physically? Vocational. Avocational. Etc. Something like this. I want you to find something specific, and then something that happened, and then something where you had a goal. I wanted this to happen, and it hasn't. I want you just to write it down. This is what happened. My boss fired me. That relationship fell apart. My body fell apart. My dreams of being whatever, your avocational, right? Your thing that you wished, a drummer, a musician, whatever, an artist. State what happened. Number 2, then, this is important. Acknowledge what actually happened. Be honest. To what degree did you contribute to that breakup? What's your role? Now, I don't want to be all negative Nelly here either, because it's important that you also, maybe what we ought to do, and I don't know, I'm still spitballing this, is not just thinking the negative about things that blew up, but things that went well. Because, when the Navy SEALs have a successful mission, they do an after-action review. They don't say, oh, we did great. No, they do find ways to improve, even from the positive experiences. So don't feel like this is many of you guys, I know you guys, you're amazing, and you've done some amazing things. So actually, I'm changing my mind here. I want you to find two things. One where you've been successful, and one where you've, not been, okay? Yeah, some interesting questions you might ask during this time is, what did you feel you should have been acknowledged but weren't? That might get you some ideas. So what did you feel what did you feel you should have been acknowledged for but you weren't? Or on the positive side, what did you accomplish that you're most proud of? That might get you at some ideas of what these things are. Because I think you want two cases, a positive and a negative one, and you're going to take it through this process. The third one is you're going to learn from the experiments. And I want you to write down, what lesson did you learn when the relationship broke up? What lesson did you learn on a positive note? So maybe I'll talk about physical. I'll think of myself. So years ago, I was overweight and out of shape, and I reflected in the mirror, literally. It was not a pretty sight. And I said I wanted to change my body. And I began to do something called triathlons, and I started to work on that. And I stated what happened. I got fat. I acknowledged what actually happened, what caused it. So I'm not sure I was quite as, I didn't think through it this way, but let's just use this, hope that I did this a little bit more. And what caused me to get fat, right? Eating too much food, lack of activity, disappointed with life. There's a lot of things that were going on there. And then I said, what can I learn? And as I began to do triathlons, I began to realize some experiences that I was able to learn from. And frankly, it has driven my life in so many ways. This has been one of the best things I've ever done, is to start doing triathlons. And as a side note, and I think some of you have heard me say this, is that I'm not kind of switching to doing some more swimming, because this triathlon came into be an obsession, so it almost became too much. So you learn from experience, and what's the fourth step? It's number 4, you adjust your behavior. So again, a simple example, I had to adjust my behavior. Frankly, for me, I signed up for a race. I signed up for a race and I didn't want to look stupid. And so the way to adjust my behavior is I had to change my eating habits and I had to change my exercise habits. And along the way, I learned a lot of things. Oh my gosh, the lessons I learned were just innumerable. It changed my life. It was one of the best things I ever did. Is I got disciplined with my physical body. The effects spiritually were unbelievable. Frankly, it changed my vocational stuff. It helped me to become a leader. I can't tell you the things that has helped me with. And it taught me things about God and about myself, perseverance, so many things. So really what I want us to do is to go through this process. Now, this week you're supposed to be, thinking about, your beliefs that need to be altered, but I'll bet you'll find some things here as you go through this process, this 4-step process, and write them down. Again, what I want you to do is take a positive one and a negative one, and go through this process and write it down, and I think it'll change you, and it'll give you some ideas of what kind of a vision it's going to lead to for you. Because, and again, like we said earlier, you don't learn from experience. You learn from reflecting on experience. Hey guys, we're going to see you face to face. I can't wait to see you. John out.